Hi there, I'm Shawna Jordan. Welcome to The Hungry Soul. Today we're going to make tomato basil soup. Really super easy soup, so tasty. There's a few different ways you can make it. I'm going to show you how I like to eat it. Let's go over the ingredients. We're going to use some fresh tomatoes. I've got some fresh canned ones here. You can certainly use any canned tomatoes you like. You can use fresh tomatoes. You just have to blanch them first and take off the skin. But I'm going to use about 3 quarts of canned tomatoes. I've got some honey to cut the acidity, and I've got some basil, some garlic, some onion, and some chicken stock. And other than that, all we're going to add is some water. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay, so my pan is preheated just over medium. I'm going to drop in some olive oil there for the onions. I'm going to cook these for a couple minutes till they go transparent. And once they do, then I'm going to add in the garlic. Okay, I've had my onions browning in some olive oil for a few minutes here. You can see they're starting to get a little bit glossy. It's looking a little bit dry, so I'm just going to add in just a little bit more olive oil there. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop in my garlic. I always wait to add it till after the onions so it doesn't burn up. You don't want it to turn brown, it'll get bitter. You just want to cook that for like 30 seconds to a minute, just till it gets good and hot and the flavor kind of opens up and starts coming out. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start adding tomatoes. I'm just going to go ahead and pour the jars right in. I'm using whole tomatoes. You can go ahead and use diced or whatever you like. I'll just go in and break them up a little bit afterwards, and as they cook they're going to break down a lot too. Alright, and then I'm going to put in some chicken stock, and I'm going to put in about 4 cups. You don't have to use chicken stock. If you want to keep it vegetarian, you can go ahead and use water or vegetable stock. Now that looks good to me. After it cooks down, if it starts to thicken, you can add water. Stir that in there, and then I'm going to add some herbs to it. I love fresh thyme in my tomato soup. And I'm just going to put in a tiny bit, about that much. We just want to add a little flavor. This is tomato basil, so basil is going to be a star in this, but we're not going to put it in until the soup's almost done. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on medium-low. I'm going to stir it every 15 minutes or so, and I'm going to let it simmer for about 40 minutes. Okay, let's watch out for the steam. Do a little check-in on our tomato basil here. Bubbling nicely. You can see those tomatoes are just kind of almost looking a little bit foamy. They're starting to break down a little. So you can just kind of start to push them against the edge and break them up. You kind of want them to be bite-sized chunks. If you want, you can even, throw a little hand potato masher in here and mash them up a little bit. But I think now we'll go ahead and start to season it. The flavor should be starting to blend really well already with the onion and the garlic. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw in some pepper. And of course this is to your liking. Tomatoes typically take a lot of salt, so I'm going to start with 2 big tablespoons full. And it's not too thick or anything. I think the consistency is perfect. If yours looks thicker than this, you can go ahead and add a little water until you get to this consistency. Now I'm going to throw in some basil, and I just have some whole leaves here, and I'm just going to tear some pieces just loosely like that. This is probably going to cook like maybe another 15 to 20 minutes, so this basil can infuse, and then we'll save the rest for garnishing. Okay, now we need to cut the acidity, so I'm going to put honey in. You can use sugar if you like. I typically use honey. I've just found that I really like the way that flavor blends in this soup better than anything. So 1, 2, 3, that's probably 4 or 5 tablespoons we'll start with. So go ahead and stir it in, and you want to make sure it's all dissolved and blended really well, and then you're going to take a taste of it. And then you go ahead and keep adding honey until it's as sweet as you like. Now you don't want it to be like candy, you just want it to be enough that it balances out the salt and the acid in there. So if you're gonna add more, only add like a tablespoon at a time. I'm just gonna sample it here. Be careful, it's really, really hot. Now I think that tastes really good, but I'm actually gonna add just a tiny bit more honey. We're almost there. So I added about 2 tablespoons there. And that should probably do it good. It tastes salty enough to me. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the lid off now, and I'm going to let this simmer for another 10-15 minutes, and then we'll check in with it. Okay, so our tomato basil is done. Got it here in the pot. It's cooling down. Now that I've got it simmered to the point that I want, I'm going to add some more basil at the end. I just didn't want to overcook all the basil. So go ahead and just put a light sprinkling over the top. Stir that in. And let's go ahead and taste it. And I'm just going to put 1 scoop in here so you can just really see that the tomato is a little bit chunky, but yet it's not big chunks. Just has some texture. You can see the little pieces of garlic in there and the onion and the basil. Now I like to garnish mine with a little bit of fresh Parmesan. And I recommend using the real deal Parmesan Reggiano. And then I'm going to throw in just a little more basil. And I like to put some croutons in there or serve it with some good crusty bread. Go ahead and take a taste. It's really hot. It's fabulous. Really good. I can taste all the flavors, and that fresh basil's to die for. This is a great recipe. It's a great vegetarian recipe if you make it with vegetable stock. I hope you'll give it a try, and I hope you'll like it, and I hope you'll live, love, and cook with passion, my friends.